Make sure
Oh, yeah, you
that.
wanted teachers up in a tizzy because we didn't tizzy up our teachers enough yet? Oh, my freaking God. Within 2 minutes of the governor saying that, I mean, we started getting the panicked teachers about, does that mean the kids don't have to wear masks? Oh, my God.
Yeah,
So we very quickly
everybody's
had to send
wondering
some.
about everything now.
Ugh.
It is interesting.
The governor may just have signed his loss, his election loss.
Well,
I'm sorry.
but then I've got people, it's almost 50-50. I've got half my friends who are thrilled, who are like, God bless him, best governor ever, best state ever, and then I've got 50% who are upset. So it is interesting.
Well,
Let's see if we're on.
Timing didn't help. Spring break. It would have been better after spring break, I think. Spring break is next week for most people.
I think it's because we're coming up on that year mark.
Yeah.
Are we live now? We are live and broadcasting. Did you just hit?
Live from Venture X Studios, it's JP, Kathy, and the crew. All right, here we go.
We are rocking and rolling and whatnot, JP.
Tons to talk about today. Teachers forced to face students with no masks. Woo! Oh.
No.
Not the mandate. I thought that was a mandate.
It's interesting.
And it's good I'm here. Huh?
This perfect timing for you to be on the show today, Dr. Good, because there are, I think a lot of the questions are revolving, especially for those of us with school age kids. Everybody's wondering, what does this mean? Are the kids back in school full? All this kind of stuff. Well, first, welcome to JP, Kathy, and the crew, everybody. Woohoo! It's Wednesday.
Is it?
It is
Yes.
Wednesday.
And Dr. Good was going to be talking about Dr. Seuss stuff today, but yesterday on Texas Independence Day, so happy birthday, Texas. God bless the great state of Texas.
Happy birthday to Texas. Happy birthday.
Do we have the rights to sing that? Sing it real fast.
I do.
Sing it real fast.
Happy birthday to Texas. Happy birthday to you.
And many more?
On Channel 4.
There you go.
Scooby-Doo.
On Channel 2. Oh,
So
she just ignores us.
I'll say within
Dr.
seconds. Within seconds of the governor saying that the mask mandate was going away as of next Wednesday, March 10th, we had panicked teachers all over the state of Texas. It wasn't just us saying, wait, what does that mean?
What does it mean? Yep.
Because, they were already on pins and needles with kids coming to school with masks and adults wearing masks. But now with the saying no mask mandate, what did that mean for schools? And again, within minutes, most school districts had sent something to staff and parents saying, we know the governor said no masks, but we are staying with our mask and social distancing mandates until at least the end of the school year, and then we will revisit. So if any of you are in school districts, I would be surprised if you didn't already, by the end of the school day yesterday, get a note from your school district saying, we know the governor said that, but we will still wear masks.
So now wait a minute. So you're telling me then on Wednesday,
Wednesday,
I just can't stop wearing my mask, and you can't do anything about it?
Go into school. Not if you want to go into a school.
Oh.
Teachers have not been vaccinated. And here's the other interesting thing that happened on the same day. Here is the no mask mandate, and here is Biden saying by the end of March, teachers are going to be able to get their first vaccine. And so how does that translate from Biden to the governors? Because
well, you know what's interesting about that, though, is that Forney ISD just got all of their teachers vaccinated.
I don't know how.
How did they do that? Yeah.
And we talked about this. You and I talked about this the other day. Another school district had gotten their entire district vaccinated.
So there's some quiet deals going on, and that's what makes this vaccine rollout so frustrating, is that we can't trust the system, right? It is as figure it out on your own, be an advocate for yourself, by hook or crook, get your vaccination, because frankly, the way the government's rolling it out, we can't trust even people who are supposed to get it. Your father is a primo example of that.
Right.
Who should already have it.
3 months ago, right?
Right. Well, and we're on 15 lists. I mean, literally on 15 lists.
And again, that's what's wrong with this rollout, and that's why people don't trust the rollout, right? So that if people trusted the rollout, we'd all be all little robots waiting our turn, because we knew that people would wait their turn because it was the correct way of doing it according to need, right?
Yep.
But that's not the way the rollout happened. And so teachers are distrustful. Parents, people like your parent is distrustful of the system. How can you be on 15 different lists and not get it, even though you meet the comorbidity in more than one area?
Right. Well, and here's what's even more interesting than that is that how is it that somebody gets on a list, all right? So like Collin County's list, right? My dad was like, I swear he was like maybe it was 15,000. Maybe I missed it, right? But Collin County's now servicing like 75,000 through 90,000. And he's never gotten the call. And I called back to check the list, and sure enough, he's still there on the waiting list. So how did he get bypassed at 15,000 and they're still servicing 75,000 and 90,000?
And then you hear people who are not as sick as your father who got on after searching for 3 days, right? I've heard those.
Yes. I mean, that's the thing. There's no rhyme or reason. I am really happy to hear about the emphasis on, from a federal level, the emphasis on teachers who want to get vaccinated being able to be a priority, because I've never understood that. If we were so worried about the schools being super spreaders, then literally why weren't they at the top of the list from the beginning?
Well, my worry is, and that's what's, sort of nobody's talked about this, it just happened yesterday, is Biden can say that, but he can't make it so. It's the governor.
The governors have to carry that out in the states. Yes.
Yeah. And so it's nice that he said that. And so, how is that going to encourage our governor to say, yeah, the president I didn't vote for is saying that I should do something differently. I think I'll do that. I'm not thinking that's happening.
Well, and I'll tell you, what's also interesting is I'm waiting for the fallout. There's going to be fallout.
From
right?
From which thing?
Every time we do something with the federal government being in charge,
right,
there's always a fallout at the end of it. And so I'm waiting for the follow the money. I'm going to start calling it my FTMs.
And
the money.
You
on
are
the
correct,
vaccine.
sir. Yeah.
Where is this all going to end up? Somebody's making a lot of money off of this. This isn't free. Everybody's not just doing all this for the goodness of the world. It's not altruistic. Somebody's making a lot of money. And so follow the money. And so I'm waiting for that fallout.
Well, the government has received all these vaccines. Surely there's some deal that says we're paying you these millions, gazillion dollars for these vaccines, right?
Well, it goes back to, think of this. Think of Carnegie, right? During the rail rush and the steel rush, right? Carnegie comes to this country, starts off as a runner running messages, gets his first investment into a rail car, then into rails, then goes into pig ore, then holds Rockefeller at bay.
Pig ore?
On pig ore up in West Virginia, then somehow becomes this magnate, billionaire for all intents and purposes for that time frame, right? All based on what? Navy ship contracts, where he was able to undercut, even though all the steel magnates came together and said, we're not going to offer a price less than this for the steel. He did anyways, undercut them, got the contracts, and started putting out these huge sheets of steel and ran almost everybody out of business except for Rockefeller. And how did he make his billions? Off the government. Let's come further. Ross Perot. Ross Perot makes his hundreds of millions of dollars how? Off the welfare system, okay? And the federal government's contracts. So here's my question. And if it wasn't for Hunter Biden being such an altruistic guy working for the Ukrainian
okay.
pipeline. Oh, did I say that out loud? Or selling dinner invitations to meet with the vice president, who happens to be his dad.
No, the big guy.
In the Joe Biden Corporation.
The big guy.
Who of the cronies are making money? Somebody's making money. This is not altruistic.
So I'm wondering if that means that, much like flu vaccines every year, that they know that there's a COVID vaccine every year that we're going to be getting, and there's the money there from the insurance companies, because the insurance companies tend to pick that up for most of us.
Right.
And so
Well, Dr. Good, I don't know about you, how y'all do it on y'all's campuses, and again, you're out and about. You are the public ed expert. When I remember even back in the '90s, especially as a special education teacher, I was getting hepatitis shots. Any shot that was out there, they gave you, and I went into the school nurse's office. Got to school a little bit early that morning. Went to the school nurse's office. They gave me the shot there. No big deal. So, I'm assuming that like districts have contracts with those folks for the teachers, especially that are at a higher risk.
So we're not doing that quite yet. We're not giving the the COVID tests. Although I will tell you, now we have a lot of entrepreneurial medical guys who are putting little COVID testing labs in parking lots. Matter of fact, we've got one working in Mesquite. The one in Plano hasn't turned on yet, but anybody can drive up to this little steel portable building and get a COVID test once a week if one wants, and make sure one doesn't have COVID.
Oh, okay. And that's free every single time, even if I'm a weekly customer.
My wondering is, will they eventually get the vaccine also?
Okay, yeah. And this is going to, we know what we will be talking with you about for many Wednesdays to come, and what you'll be talking about on your show every Sunday morning for many Sundays to come. There's, again, big announcements. Okay, it's huge in the world of education, whatever's going to happen, and how our school district's going to be prioritized. Again, I'm going to go with JP on follow the money, and let's see what happens. We've got, you and I talked about this on your show. There's some great intentions in Biden's platform for education. It's just, where does the money come from? So how do you put mental health as a priority? Where do you get that money, kind of a thing? But then also, and we're going to be talking to your friend and ours, Senator Angela Paxton, a little bit later on the show. And And again, I'm, with one of my kids still being in public school, literally we had an email very, very clearly outlining it does not matter what the governor has said. We are still doing A, B, and C, because I had friends texting me and I know your phone blew up yesterday. I had friends saying, okay, Kathy, so does this mean my kid doesn't remote learn anymore? They just go back to school now? Does my kid have to wear a mask? Everybody has a ton of questions, and I'm seeing more and more people say, oh, never mind, school sent a thing. It's business as usual per the COVID guidelines that are already in place. What are you seeing?
Because we remember, now we have misalignment again. We have the CDC still saying masks and socially distance. If we socially distance at school, that means not everybody can come. No school district has enough buildings to socially distance for their population. Their population is housed by 22 or 25 to 1, and if we have to socially distance, then we need twice the amount of classrooms, and nobody has that. And so it is a good thing right now that some of the population of schools want to stay home, because it allows us then to socially distance in an easier way. It's going to become a little bit harder next year as people grow more comfortable to either put more kids in the classroom or go to a hybrid where kids only come to school twice a week in groups, right? Group A, right. Group B.
And that's where my his particular school campus is right now. And he still says, even on the days he comes to school, he said maybe it's up to like 25% of his classmates who are eligible to come to school. They really just don't anymore. And even if, like, a friend of his who he was still eating lunch with, because he has, he's a junior, he has off campus. I asked him the other day, and I said, who'd you go to lunch with? And I expected him to say his friend's name. And he's like, oh, he's not coming to school anymore. He's just doing it all virtual, because we really, it's really no different, kind of a thing. So which kind of, that breaks my heart.
You bring up a good point, and I'm seeing this evolve, and I will say that I cannot predict how it will turn out. But what you're saying is triggering a memory of what's happening in our place. And of course, it's happening all over the nation. I can't say it's state of Texas, because we're all doing the same thing, right? We're all struggling to try to figure out. But we have some kids who are very, very successful at home. And then we have kids who are home that we're having, through tribunals, having to order them to school. And so my wondering is, over time, will we have a population that stays home because they actually function better at home and are more successful with virtual learning versus the kids who we know through trial and error that they are actually more successful being in the building?
That is a great question. Yeah, that's a great question. Is a few? I think. Well, and you've talked about this. There have been some blessings through COVID, especially when it comes to education. For example, we talked about, your kid has strep throat. Okay, well, the doctor says they can't go back to school for, 72 hours. But after the first round of antibiotics, within 24 hours, they're feeling great. Well, then guess what? They can go back to school, quote unquote, online. And they don't have to make up 3 days of work. They just have to make up 1 day of work. So there are some situations. Then it's going to come down to, okay, you're right. So some kids, because of their personality, just because of the nature of how so many things are online, and that's how so many we talked about this before, play dates have forever been changed because you've got kids who, my son doesn't go over to his friend's house, but literally he'll do a gaming tournament all Saturday afternoon. So maybe you're going to have kids who their personality, they are more successful from the comfort of their home.
Well, now, and so to steal your example, though, right?
Yeah.
I've been doing the gaming from home and doing big tournaments.
Right.
Since like 1994.
Right.
And we even did them. I had a friend, remember the old MCI? Does anybody remember that? Seriously?
Is that a game thing?
Or
what
it's
is
a
that?
telecom company that
Oh,
died.
MCI? Vaguely.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
maybe something back here.
Well, you old people. Jeez.
Well, you're a baby.
Dr. Good and I had a fun conversation last night. That was aimed more at her. That's an inside joke. So, anyways, but I made her smile and got her cheeks to rise, so that's good. No, but in all seriousness, we used to go up there to their top floor because all of their computers were connected, right?
Right.
So 10, 15 of us guys, I'm talking like grown men.
Grown men, yes.
would go up and play Command and Conquer.
Yeah.
And so we could all be on this huge gaming board.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that the impact is that. I tell you, Kathy, to jump off what you said, I thought at first for the kids that had extreme anxiety, that were having a hard time going to a big building, going through the big doors, all the kids.
Having kids all around them and
would
everything.
be perfect, right?
Right.
Nope. In tribunals, what we're finding out is that their anxiety is jumping even higher with the thought that they've got to turn their camera on and now be seen on camera.
Oh, and the three of us have talked about that, and we've seen situations with families where the kid has a really hard time, and the teacher's got to see him. They've got to check in. You can't have a cardboard cutout kind of a thing. It is riddled with anxiety. So, there is no perfect answer. But Dr. Good, what are your thoughts? And especially again with what Greg Abbott has said, Governor Abbott with his announcement, because we've got the teachers unions and TSTA in particular, the largest Texas teachers union. They have said this has potential disaster written all over it. We're encouraging basically, and I'm not quoting them verbatim, but to keep your powder dry for school districts, charter schools, private schools, everybody to keep your mandates in place until we have medical personnel. For example, my son goes to the School of Rock, and a few hours after the announcement, they said while we recognize that Governor Abbott has every right to do what he's done. For our particular business, this is School of Rock saying, they said, we are keeping our safety protocols and COVID protocols in place. So if your kids, so again, like I used to could go and drop CJ off and kind of listen to the practice from the little waiting room, the little lobby area. Still can't do that. You can't walk your child in. They've got to wear a mask the whole time. They've got to bring their own water bottle. They can't drink from any kind of water thing there. So like the two major things in my child's who's still in school's life, they're still in place.
Well, we're just waiting. Time is our friend, right?
Right.
And so as the sooner, again, let me beat what I hope is not a dead horse, and that is that teachers should have been on the frontline vaccination list.
Agree.
much of this would have been
Yep.
a non-issue had
Yep.
our teachers had the choice to be vaccinated.
Right. Early
Well,
on, like
here's
when the
the thing.
healthcare workers did.
Well, here's the thing, though, too. I mean, the feedback I'm getting as well from some of the unions is that, well, okay, that's fine. You're going to vaccinate us, but we're not going back until you vaccinate the kids. And it's like, I'm thinking to myself, how is that a bargaining chip? If you're vaccinated, you're vaccinated. I mean, help me out here. I'm confused as a goat on AstroTurf. And
Well,
so,
because kids are low on the totem pole for being vaccinated,
but-
unless they're a child
but I
like
think
you
it's
has a health
interesting,
problem.
though. They get what they want. Hey, treat us like first responders. Treat us like first responders. Vaccinate us before we have to go back into the classroom. Okay, well, let's do that. Let's vaccinate you. We're going to change you to a 1C, and we're going to get you in there. And, evidently ISDs in Texas have found a way to get their entire ISD vaccinated at one
I
shot.
still don't know.
Oh, yeah, follow the money.
Yeah. Somebody has some kind of connections there.
Right.
I mean,
So now it's turned to, well, okay, you're getting us vaccinated, but now we don't want to come back until the kids are vaccinated. I mean, help me out with that, Dr. Good.
And those are your more, how can I say this, more established unions. In Texas, we don't have unions. We have classroom teacher organizations. And so the power behind those are not nearly what they are in the unions up north. So, there is no explanation. And unions sort of give themselves a black eye by doing stuff like that, I think.
I agree. Yeah.
If we know that kids aren't the ones to spread it as fast, and I don't know that schools have been shown to be super spreaders. I think schools have been shown to be super safety conscious to the point where if somebody's exposed, we close down the classroom. If somebody, if a grade level,
Right.
we close down the grade level. But we do that out of safety, and we've been successful doing that. We've mastered the art of, if we can't teach at school, we teach virtually until we can teach at school.
Right.
We really had to become so nimble and pivot so quickly. I got a call yesterday. One of the campuses has to have 3 classrooms. And so, luckily it's before spring break. So most of the quarantine will be spent,
During those. Break. Yeah. Yep.
It just, it is our constant work. What will be interesting, and I don't know if anybody would take this up, but to do a study on those districts across the nation that did not ever offer face-to-face and look at their MAP gains, their assessment gains versus states like Texas that opened up pretty much in September or some.
Right.
And to see if by chance those kids actually had stronger learnings because they were offered face-to-face and had the opportunity to go into the buildings versus those like Chicago and San Diego.
New York.
They've not gone back yet.
Yeah.
Right.
So, Dr. Good, I have a very important question. This is one of those at the very top of PubEd's curiosity. Will you be joining me in Plano today, or will you be virtual?
Good question. I hadn't thought. I'm so used to doing virtual. I'm already late for a meeting now, and then my meetings bleed into each other.
Right.
But we wouldn't be able to be in the same room anyway.
No.
So
I didn't know if you were, though. So we can
I
set
do
a room
need
up
to
for
go to-
you.
I may see you there. We'll see.
All right. Sounds good. Well, let us know so we can set you a room up,
And-
Dr. Good.
Thank you.
And then next week, because we didn't have time, but Dr. Good, who is very humble, has actually won a huge award here in Plano, and we'll talk a little bit about that next week.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
You're humble. We know. We're going to brag for you. It's okay.
This Sunday we'll be talking more about, the new Secretary of Education
Yes.
that has been, brought in, what that may mean for Texas. There may be more money coming in, and that's one of those things that puts us on alert because the money that comes from our federal government during crisis time doesn't always make it down to the districts. So we'll be looking out for that. We'll also actually be talking to our friend Judge Payton because his company was was featured in an article recently, and so we'll talk about that.
Excellent.
on in public education that we just can't fit it all in. But
No.
See you Sunday at 8.
All right. We'll see you then. Thanks, Dr. Good. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you. Talk later.
All right. Talk later. So there you go.
Oh, well, this is, there's so many. It's interesting. Just our little group of us who are partners here at JP, Kathy, and the crew. We have a text chat, and one of the members sent a comment about Governor Abbott's thing, and then we some of us kind of piggybacked on the fact that, hey, this is going to be kind of a fascinating study in human behavior. And JP, you and I talked about it this morning. We have seen when we're getting on Facebook, I would say so far, I've seen amongst my friends, just my group, that their feed popped up. I've got 50% of the folks who are like, this is the greatest thing ever. This is why Texas is the greatest state. Good for Governor Abbott. And then I've got people who are changing their profile picture to it's like a Texas thing that has a mask that says, I still choose to mask, or something like that. And then people saying, the governor, even amongst my family, a number of us were talking and texting yesterday. And the majority of my family is extremely conservative, but even some of them have said, hey, wait a second, we've got somebody who is a server at a very, very, very nice restaurant, like a restaurant where former President Bush frequents. And they said that, and again, conservative family member, but said this is too soon, that their restaurant has already, the owner already said, we're keeping the same protocols in place. So we've gotten so used to seeing, like, some people are saying, oh, I can't wait to see people smiling again on the streets. But I really wonder if people are, and now what the governor has done, and then I'm turning it over to you because I know you've definitely got an opinion on this, and I want to hear what you're going to do, especially having a dad who's got medical issues. What I like about what Governor Abbott has done is he has done what you and I have said for all along. Let people, let businesses, let schools, let these individuals make their own decisions based on what's best for them. That's what I like with what lifting all of this gives us that opportunity to do. But I still think, and even some of our conservative friends who were very against masks at the beginning, I bet they're still wearing them. What do you think?
Well, I mean, so here's the thing. Again, I'm back at the whole, it should be your choice, right?
Which is what it is now.
Right. And I think that's what it should be.
Yeah.
With my father's condition, the way he is, and again, like the last couple days, he has been down. He has been super, super weak. He would fall asleep mid-sentence.
Oh, bless his heart.
And I think that a big part of that is his congestive heart failure.
Yep.
Where I think he just kind of starts, the oxygen
is low,
not there,
and your energy's gone,
and
right?
So it took him a couple days, and now he's feeling pretty good again, and I can hear him spry, and he's wanting to get up and get moving again. So for him to get
his sarcastic self has come back out.
Oh gosh, yes,
which we love.
Well,
when that starts going away, that's when you get worried about Stan the Man Payton.
Right, and then that does go away during that time frame, and this happens to us about every 45 days. So for him to get COVID-19, it could be detrimental, right? It could be life-ending for him. So I will still be cautious on where we're at, what we're doing until we get him vaccinated. I think he wants the Johnson & Johnson vaccine to be serious, to be curious. The one shot, and it's more lined up with what a vaccination looks like. And so I think that's...
And your dad's researched all this. I mean, he's not just kind of willy-nilly or just saying, Dr. Clothier, he's not just taking he's done his own research as to what's best for his health situation.
And so, I think that for me, it's going to be take care of my dad, protect my dad. And so depending on the situation, depending on where we're at, it's kind of like walking into a restaurant. I'm not going to wear my mask walking into a restaurant. I mean, I'm walking literally 15 feet and then going to sit down.
Yeah.
And then I'm not wearing a mask while I'm sitting down. And so my thing is this, and in a comedian setting,
which I've never understood. That's the thing I've never understood. I get the servers wearing masks because they're there the whole time. They're interacting back in the kitchen. There's close quarters. I've been a server before. I get it. But the people walking in, for me to you, what difference does that make?
Right.
Yeah.
And so and a comedian said it best, and several of them have said it now, I'm sure, we should have all just gotten wheelchairs and wheeled around because we wouldn't have to wear masks. Because for some reason in the sitting position, we don't need to wear masks because we can't spread COVID-19 evidently in the sitting position, i.e. go to a restaurant, take your mask off and sit there the entire meal and talk and not have a mask on, right? What's interesting is a lot of restaurants have gone back to full capacity. I won't name the restaurants.
Oh, you are correct.
But we went into a restaurant in Frisco the other day, and there was no social distancing tables. I mean, it's a small area anyways.
Like at first you would see there'd be a big X across the table, or there would not be chairs and the table would not have, table setting things. And so you knew that table was off limits, and it was like every other table and all this kind of stuff. You're right. We just went to a restaurant the other night. Definitely all the social distancing, all those rules were very much enforced, very much in place. But I've been to places where, and again, I don't want to get any businesses in trouble, where you've got groups and you can tell it's not just family at the table. You've got, 10 folks at a table who all are probably from different families, out having a couple of cocktails, watching a game, and then there's a table just like them, butted up right against them.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I think it's interesting. Dad's been out and about the entire pandemic. Even when we were in our most strictest environment, he was able to work in a game of pool at a local bar down in Allen. And, of course, nobody was there, and so it was easy to socially distance, and he wore his mask. So I think that he's been exposed to the virus throughout the entire process, and I'm hoping that his body has kind of built up a little bit of an immunity to it because he's gotten small doses of it. And his
probably
body's been able
along
to fight
the way,
it off. Right. Well, we all have. There's no way.
There's no way that we haven't.
Right. And
I mean, unless you have literally sheltered in place the whole entire time.
Meaning, sealed your house off.
Yeah, and meaning, had things delivered. You didn't even go out to the grocery store. You didn't go physically into a church. You didn't, you didn't have a kid coming to and from school. So you have to have been exposed. Unless you have sheltered in place, truly sheltered in place.
Right.
Yeah, I had to have been exposed.
And I have had friends whose families sheltered in place. I mean, we're talking like I went and got groceries and had to sit them outside the door.
You are correct. There are still people who are doing that. And I think, and again, now in the state of Texas, if you are doing that and you feel comfortable doing that, you get to, and that's all good. Oh, is that Elizabeth?
No, that would be Michelle's that still hasn't been gotten.
Michelle's. Hey, we need to get one to Elizabeth,
I've already told Elizabeth, I'm like, I still got to mail yours because I haven't gotten that done yet. Haven't gotten to the post yet.
I just think that this is going to be fascinating to sit and watch. I know what I'll personally do. I'm just anxious to see. And here's what I don't want to see happen, and I'm afraid it's going to happen. You're going to have, let's say like a neighborhood Walmart or a Tom Thumb or a Kroger or something. None of them are sponsors. They can be. But I would imagine most places, most businesses, especially a grocery store type style place, is going to say, keep your mask on, if you want to come shop here. And again, if a business wants to have that rule, that's their gig. That's their thing.
We have a choice to shop there or not.
Exactly. But are people going to shame? My concern is that somebody's going to come in and say the governor says I don't have to wear a mask, and then you've got an altercation between $10 an hour worker and a person saying I will not wear my mask and I'm coming into your place of business.
Well, and I think you call the police and you have them removed and give them a criminal trespass. I mean,
I see that coming. Yeah.
As a business owner, I have.
You can do what you want to do.
You do not have the right to step into my store and shop. I have the right to whether or not to let you in my store and shop. Now, I also have the right to have no business with bad publicity.
Right.
Now, I do have the right to walk into a federal building and conduct business. Now, but that federal building can pass a federal law requiring me to wear a mask. The state of Texas can pass mask rules on their parks and wildlife. How many people?
I wonder what's happening
in the park. Well, it's wide open.
At the state capitol. Well, no, at the state capitol.
No mask. I mean,
I'm anxious. We've got, as a matter of fact, stay tuned. The last 15 minutes of the show, we'll have our Senate Minute with State Senator Angela Paxton. so now when they're on the floor, can they do it without wearing a mask?
So I'm going to tell you that if the governor is saying that the state of Texas is open 100% and we're not mandating masks, then for him to not make every state building, park, anything owned by the state a no mask zone, then there's hypocrisy there, and he won't get reelected. Because you're just telling everybody you're opening the state of Texas up. Now, if you choose to wear your mask, I'm assuming he's not going to say, well, you can't wear a mask.
No, and I think there will be a lot of people. I really do. I think we've got, for better, for worse, whatever your thoughts are on the masks, I think you're going to have some people. I had a couple of family members. We've got Jerry's viewing and funeral coming up next week, and so we were talking about, what does everybody want to do with that situation? And I've got family members who are like, hey, other people don't have to. I'm to the point where I feel comfortable with it. I haven't gotten COVID yet, and I think the mask might have something to do with it. And again, I don't know that it's a medical fact, and you can argue that all day, and we have on the show. I think this now becomes almost like a psychological thing, JP. You know what I'm saying?
Well, sure. Well, and here's the other truth of it, right? Greg Rusk had said a lot earlier in the feed, the ineffective mask wearing, right? And it's not effective anyways. And to a great deal of extent, I agree with him, especially with the way people wear masks and all of that.
Yeah, when your nose is like, and Dr. Clothier said, when your nose is sticking out, it's, okay, just take the whole thing off. Yeah.
But there is, if the masks catch any of the viral input, then it reduces the amount of the virus.
And that's the big thing that Dr. Clothier's been sticking to. He's like, limit your exposure, talking closely to someone in a crowded room for more. He goes, once you pass that 15-minute mark, he said, if they're sick, you've had enough of that spittle or whatever that's come your way.
Right.
So,
again, I think it's 6 half one dozen the other. They're not reporting flu cases, but it seems like the flu is down dramatically. I was having a conversation with somebody about that last night, and the big thing was that the kids aren't in school, and so they say that's a big reason why the flu virus is down. And I want to jump to that.
Right.
So kids are not in school. You remember President Trump was real big on, we need to open the schools up and get kids back into school, right? And was super criticized.
Oh, they were killing him on that. The media was.
So Joe Biden is now considering doing a school reopening czar under his administration.
And did he get his chops busted?
No, not at all. In fact, what Politico is saying, and I love this quote, he is using his bully pulpit to push states to get shots into teachers' arms by the end of the month, and he wants to open up a school reopening czar. So here's what I find very, very interesting about the whole thing. Here we've got the Secretary of Education now, who's been confirmed, Miguel Cardona, jumping around with First Lady Jill Biden to elementary schools that did reopen and have reopened safely to talk about how great it is that they reopened.
And they were the ones blasting him during the campaign, literally blasting him. How dare he put our most precious resource, our children, in jeopardy? Again, it's that the deafening hypocrisy that kills me.
And what's interesting is the elementary school they're going to first opened up before there was ever a vaccination. And so that's where the hypocrisy is, right?
So either you're pro-vaccine, which they seem to be, or not.
Right. And so you're going back to school. And I think it's interesting. President Trump said that. Now Biden is saying that. In fact, he's wanting to hold to his 100-day requirement.
For the mask thing?
No, to get back everybody in school.
Oh, okay. Huh.
He also, that's one of his other 100-day mandates, is he wants everybody back in the school system, back publicly face-to-face. So, yeah, very, very interesting conversation piece. Now transitioning to them taking off 6 books of Dr. Seuss off of the reading list. And what I think is terrible is that the publisher for Dr. Seuss, I got wind of this. I haven't read the article yet. We're going to give credit to Charles Gura for the story.
Producing it. Thank you.
But said that there are 6 books that the publisher will no longer publish for Dr. Seuss. Here's what's funny. Barack Obama and Michelle Obama were reading Dr. Seuss during
his administration.
No.
Oh.
This week.
Oh.
this week.
Okay. Do
during
they not know what
National-
their side's saying?
And that's what the headline was. Did the president not get the message that we're not doing this anymore? So yeah, I mean, again, it's ridiculous. And I'll tell you what we're doing is we're turning Ray Bradbury into a prophet. Instead of him writing fiction, he's now not writing nonfiction. You know, Fahrenheit 451 is becoming more true. And again, how do you get rid of a republic? How do you get rid of a democracy?
Erase history,
Erase
take away
culture,
knowledge.
Erase literature.
Yes,
Literature
cancel
is culture.
Yep.
And that's what they're doing. And now we're eliminating books. And again, Dr. Seuss was he was out fighting racism. I mean,
Yeah. Well, and
not Dr. Seuss himself.
I love that. Some of the members of the crew put posts, you know, saying, "Hey, National Read Across America Day, Happy Birthday, Dr. Seuss." A number of my former students who are now teachers were like, "Oh, hey, you know, Miss Ward, just wanted to let you know this is what's going on in my classroom," and everybody's, you know, they're dressed up, even if they're on their Zoom meeting, you have, you know, Cat in the Hat and all that kind of stuff, dressed up like Thing 1 and Thing 2 and all these things. What I can't stand is hypocrisy. Either you're all about the great thing, the freedom of speech, which is what makes America unique and outstanding and just absolutely incredible. Oh, and by the way, happy National Anthem Day. Mm-hmm. March 3rd is our National Anthem Day. So, and thank you, Chip, for sending us that greeting right away this morning. Just the freedom of speech, you know, all that stuff, that's what that makes us great. But now, and Michelle mentioned earlier how social media has changed during the pandemic, and I asked her how, and she said it really does cluster kids and even adults more into these groups that are pitted against each other, and I agree. So what's happening is, if you go out there and you're like, "Happy National Anthem Day," or happy birthday, Dr. Seuss, you are opening yourself up to get slammed, to get bullied, to get berated on social media. If somebody posts something on social media and I don't like it, I just scroll on past it. I mean, you know, what is it our moms taught us? If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
Right.
Where's that? Where's that rule now?
Gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gone.
That's sad.
It's out of there. See you later. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. So the bottom line the bottom line is that we have got to get kids back out, socializing, hanging out again. Kids want that. I've got seniors that sit down in front of a tribunal and say, "I can't be at home in front of a computer for 7 hours and do school. I have to be in school." And so, and it goes to what Nathan was saying earlier about his son going through 2 years, no prom, no social interaction. And so it's pretty horrible stuff. It's pretty bad stuff. So
JP, just think of all, and you know, and to the crew, I'm thinking of, you know, you were in sports, you were in debate, you know, I was in theater and drill team and all these different clubs and student council and all this stuff. And I'm like, I just think of things that helped form who I am. Okay, now I'm not doing jump splits anymore, but I am paying the price every morning. I remember them every morning when my knee hurts when I get out of bed. But I just think of all of the things that formed who I am as a 54-year-old today. And a lot of it goes back to what I did in junior high and in high school. And I understand how, you know, like I'll ask my son, I'm like, "Well, you know, does it bother you that y'all didn't get to have like a homecoming dance? And, you know, are you concerned about this, that?" And he's like, I mean, I can't do anything to change it. So, you know, I might as well just get used to it. What effect is it going to have 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, when you've got a whole generation that has grown up absent of things that are quote unquote normal, that are rites of passages in life? that they won't experience. Is that going to impact these kids as an
Yes.
adult? And I think it has to.
You have a culture shift.
Yes.
This is a major culture
Yes.
shift is what this pandemic has cost us. And what's sad is it's going to be a band in our history. So the question is there enough of us Generation Xers to get us back to where we were at and away from where we are now, to where it only impacts a very small part of a generation? That'll be the question to answer it. I'll tell you another
And we
question.
won't know the answer to that for a long time. You know, Elizabeth says, kids need, in all caps, socialization. It's part of us as human beings.
They need Dr. Seuss too.
Yeah, yes, we need Hop on Pop.
Yeah. Coach Quigley said it is a little free library in Jamaica Beach.
Love
has
it.
Dr. Seuss books
I love it.
for
Yay,
the kids.
Coach.
So, but talking about impacts, long-term impacts, this new COVID bill where they're trying to push a $15 an hour minimum wage, right?
Yep.
And there's a lot of conversation about this $15 minimum wage. And yesterday on Facebook, a meme came out, and it was, so let me get this right. A kid that barely passes high school needs to get paid $15 an hour, which is $2,400 a month, but yet people on Social Security aren't even getting $2,400 a month.
No, right.
So how are we doing that?
How's that working out for you? Do the
My
math on that.
And my grandmother would have been one of them. And, it's like my grandfather. My grandfather was honorably discharged from the Army after World War II. He also received a medical discharge post-haste because he jumped out of airplanes and his feet went super flat, and it caused him severe medical issues. They never gave him his pension, never gave him his part that he was owed. He gave up his salary for 8 months while during World War II, right? Never got that payback.
A lot of people did, and that was just a huge loss of income because it was never paid back, right?
And my grandmother never received that benefit. And so my grandmother was living on like $1,100 a month on Social Security.
And then if you have a medication, well, then you're jacked because that $1,100 goes towards your medication.
Right.
Because the prices are outrageous.
My mom was sending my grandma money monthly to help her get by. And she lived in the same place for like 65 years. Yeah. And so it wasn't her living. And so I go back to that same question. If we're going to raise minimum wage to $15 an hour, which is $2,400 a month, are we not going to say, okay, that the minimum you can receive on Social Security is $2,400 a month?
Well, I mean, if you're going to be fair, but then again, when you've got hypocrisy going on, do you think that's, the hypocrisy becomes a theme throughout an entire administration at that point in time. Side note, and I think this is so funny. Gail said when you were talking about culture shift, she said that'd be a great name for a band. Yeah, somebody needs to trademark that because that would be a great name for a band. Michelle brought up a really good point, and this is going back to, kids not having proms and all these different kinds of things. Michelle said she's afraid that holiday get-togethers, that events like that are not going to be as big of a deal. And that does make me sad because then not only, so these are times where you didn't get to see a grandparent or a family member that might have since passed. And that's heartbreaking there because that's time you can't get Mother's Day back. You can't get Father's Day back. You can't get Christmas back. You can't get, it only comes around once a year. So then do you have these kids who have done maybe a Zoom thing for Thanksgiving or didn't get together except for immediate family or didn't go to church on Christmas or whatever the case may be? Do you have now, when they become adults and they have their own families, are they not reaching out for that big family get-together anymore? So that's, again, and the thing is we won't know these answers for a long time. But these are some serious implications in our society that we need to think about. So then is this an attack on the family unit?
So it always has been.
And then that's sad.
Again, look at your boy Cuomo up in New York.
Okay. Yeah, we haven't even had a chance to talk about him yet.
Talk about destroying the family unit. I think the left worked really hard to do that. again, how do you do it? You go back to the old USSR. How did they do it? Pretty much everybody was on lockdown. They went to their job. They went home. The weather didn't help. They got in line for toilet paper and potatoes. And that's how their life went. And that's what was acceptable because it was for the good of the whole. And it's like, there's no good of the whole working out here.
No.
And so when you dig deep and you start pushing back all of the bushes, it really comes down to us, right? We have to be the ones that make those family holidays still relevant.
A big deal, yeah.
And we make them still important, right? One, you've raised your kids for however many years. Okay, let's take a 16-year-old, for example. For 14 years, you had a chance to make holidays important.
Right.
Did you?
Oh.
Did you make the most?
Sir.
Well, and so did you make the most out of all of your family gatherings, all your family holidays?
Especially while they were little. Right.
So does 2 years out of that really knock that down, number one? Number two, let's take a 2-year-old, okay? A 2-year-old doesn't have a clue.
Yeah.
Because they were 0 when all this started. So they don't know. So now you have a chance to make that a priority, right?
When they become a toddler kind of thing.
So what's my point? Remember, I'm digging deeper, right? Let's dig a little bit deeper. Let's shift a little bit more. It becomes your responsibility to make sure that you don't allow the pandemic to shift your culture and you maintain your culture. Example.
Okay.
In my family, we do Portuguese dressing at the holidays.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
That is something that came over from
Which I still haven't had a chance to taste that.
I thought I brought you a little bowl last time.
No. You
didn't?
gave me a great macaroni and cheese recipe, but I didn't get any.
Oh, well, I'll have to get you some this
I'm
next
very
time.
sad.
I'll get you some this next time. I'll make it at Easter. How's that?
Oh, yay.
I'll make
Yes.
yes. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So,
As my stomach growls.
Right. So think about this, though. That recipe came over from Portugal through San Francisco to Fresno, and then is carried across the country, right? My daughter now knows how to make it, and she makes it at holidays, okay? This holiday season, even though we were all pandemicked in, my daughter called me and said, will you stay on the phone with me and let's do Portuguese dressing together?
Yes, because that was a priority when she was little.
Right. So I go back to that. We have had to have already prioritized these things for our kids so that our kids knew they were important, regardless of the pandemic. Those children that are impacted because, well, no, let me restate that. The kids that are impacted today will be the ones that don't know or understand. So if you allow your family to change their culture based on the pandemic, then yes, I think a child is not going to take the holidays or family gatherings as much to heart. But if you already have kids in existence, whether they're 7, 16, you've already had that chance. So your job is to control the mechanism in your home, right? So how do you do that? Well, I know a lot of families that got together and did the Zoom holidays. They did Zoom family gatherings. Mm-hmm. My sister and I, whether there's a pandemic or not, the other night, so my sister for Christmas bought my dad this camera that goes to the television that goes through a Facebook app that allows us to see the entire living room or wherever you're at.
Right.
And you can video conference with your family, right? We played a game the other night for a couple of hours with my niece and my sister and her spouse and my dad, myself, and Courtney. Yeah. We played a game for 2 hours. We ate pizza and
had big fun.
We had big fun. So we didn't allow game night to go away because of the pandemic. Not that the pandemic would have caused that anyways, because she lives in Wisconsin.
I was going to say y'all have always had the state issue. You know, you're one's in one state, one's in another. So you naturally already were problem solving. I think you're saying that then it becomes imperative for families to prioritize family and prioritize how you do that and what it looks like. And so then this leads me to the question: it's one of those things. So maybe family get-togethers at the holidays weren't a big deal. In some families, that's not their gig, and we're not passing any judgment. If it's your gig, great. If it's not, great. That's your choice. But is it now that it's like one of those things, you want what you can't have. All of a sudden now, because you can't have family get-togethers, now in your mind you're like, oh, well, we haven't been doing family get-togethers, and now it becomes a priority, but now you're more limited because of the pandemic. So it's one of those things. maybe, and who knows, again, this is just a question for discussion, maybe it becomes one of those things where you've got people who didn't prioritize family and family get-togethers who now will prioritize family and family get-togethers. We have, we get together for birthdays, everything. And especially now, that my mom's boyfriend, of 33 years has passed. I look back and, I was just looking back, and we always do a family group pic photo, and we celebrate and we get together for everybody's birthday. Sometimes we combine, like if your birthday's in the month of December, we all get together and combine those birthdays. So now I'm looking back, and I've got all of these years of memories, and when the kids were little, and just recently getting together. And I cherish those moments because you can't go back and recreate those moments. So I wonder if there are some people now that they can't get together, that when they can, they will change those family dynamics because they will put a priority on family getting together. And again, it's maybe, I don't know.
Well, and again, it goes back to your family values, right? What have you instilled? Coach Quigley said, hey, 2-year-old Piper, may not count in all this. And I'm like, unless your 2-year-old
your
is Piper.
Yeah.
But again, whether it's pandemic or not pandemic,
they had a priority on family get-togethers already.
Right.
When the kids were babies.
You've already set that. I mean, they've already been down to Grandma and Grandpa's, and they dress up.
Yep.
I mean, they're adorable. And because Grandma and Grandpa are interactive with them, and they don't just sit on a couch and say, hey, sit down there, be quiet, and watch TV with Grandpa. We're getting ready to watch the most boringest show in the world for a 2-year-old. Because you don't do that, then you've
We're
laid...
watching the wild world of sports, kids. Sit down. We're watching 60 Minutes.
Yes.
Sit down and enjoy it.
We're watching Dan Rather. Sit down and go to sleep.
Because that's fun.
No, but I mean, you've already set the tone, Coach. I mean, you know this. I mean, you guys have been so involved in their life from birth that they wouldn't know what to do without Grandma and Grandpa. So,
exactly.
So that's already there. And that's why I'm saying we can't allow the government and this pandemic to take us out of who we are as Americans, which is getting together during holidays in the kitchen, getting together for family gatherings and reunions. We don't stop that. We do it. And we're starting to come out of this thing where you can go right back to it in person. And so, anyways, I think we've bantered long enough on this deal, but it's just, it's up to you to keep your family the way you want your family.
You have to make that, you have to make that a priority. And you can't let, you're right. You cannot, you have to fight for it.
You do. Let's talk about fight for it. In the news this morning, I don't know if you picked this up or not. Southern border with stuffing 25 people into an SUV that hold 8, getting into an accident with a big rig. 12 of those people dead, driver dead.
I had not heard how. I assumed the majority of them had perished.
12 and the driver dead out of the 25. And you start to think, why are they, and there are 2 cars that went through that opening, by the way. So first of all, and again, that's not President Trump's wall. That is pre-President Donald Trump.
Right.
So they get through the wall. They get, like I said, they get into a car accident. The driver of the big rig, which I think was a cement truck or something along those lines, he survived, and he's fine. But we got 12 people dead. Why? Because Congress has spent so much time. Let me rephrase that. Nancy Pelosi, AOC, Ilhan Omar, and the Musketeers of Idiots have spent so much time.
JP has coined a new term.
Yeah, the Musketeers.
No offense to the the original Three Musketeers.
That's why I didn't say Three Musketeers. I said the Musketeers of Idiots. Their entire time with President Trump at the helm was to bash his immigration policy rather than writing policy that could be effective for immigration for this country. Here's the deal. Our immigration policy is outdated. There's no doubt about it. Rewrite the darn thing, pass it, vet people that are coming over, make the process faster, vet them, and get them over here legally so they're not trying to run cars through or come in caravans of 40,000 people to crash our borders.
Have you ever heard either you or I say anything against legalized immigration?
No.
I mean, my goodness, my great grandmother came over from Czechoslovakia as a very young woman, very young lady. Awesome. That's how I'm here. She came to Galveston. That's how I get to be here. So that's great.
And my great-grandma and great-grandpa came through San Francisco.
Yeah.
Waited 7 days to get in here, sign in legally.
And that's awesome because you're here.
Right.
So we're not knocking. Legal immigration is phenomenal. As Americans, we celebrate it. That's what makes us so great. It's the illegal folks coming over here, and especially then the ones that you have that turn to crime. I mean, heck, so in that particular car, how many of those people had COVID?
Right.
And just don't know it yet.
Right.
Again, if you have no way, the government tracks me. They've got my social. They've got it all.
And again, go back to vetting. And what's funny is nothing has changed with Joe Biden. I think it's hilarious. I mean, this guy has signed all kinds of why am I drawing executive orders?
Oh,
and
a bajillion
let me
of
go
them,
back to the refugee order that has not been signed. So President Trump reduces the number to 15,000 refugees that can come over here and sets it up into categorizations of trade and what they do and all that, right?
Right.
So, of course, Joe Biden, that's ridiculous. We're opening this up. I'm going to increase it to 62,500 refugees that can come over. We're going to place them, and we're going to do this and that. And yet...
You went into character for that,
by
the way.
200-plus airline tickets are canceled, and we've got refugees sitting in airports in other countries waiting to get over here because he's not signed the executive order increasing the number to 62,500. Now, I'm not saying I'm for or against it. What I'm saying is that the hypocrisy is ridiculous. And we're not making a move on immigration. I mean, we're not even making a move on the refugee bill that is in existence with the order that was signed by President Trump. That has stayed in place. And I don't see Biden changing it. Even though, and I think what's funny is that you got the president doing one thing, but his press secretary saying another thing, and then it never comes together, and then it just kind of goes away. Anybody notice that? Well, the president's going to sign this into action. You know, he's going to do it really soon. Well, shouldn't he have done it 2 days ago when we were trying to get people on a plane? Well, yeah, he's going to get it taken care of. Don't you worry. It's going to happen.
Okay, well, when?
It didn't happen.
Yeah.
All right, we've got Senator Paxton in the waiting room. We're going to admit her. Good morning, Senator. How are you? Her sound is connecting. We'll put her up. Oops. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
There we are.
We are good. As soon as I can get you on the screen here, for some reason, my Zoom is not wanting to zoom. Zoom. Probably because I was singing.
There she is.
So we were just bashing Joe Biden and his lack of immigration policy and pretty much sticking
We're having
with
a good time.
President Trump's refugee number of 15,000. We just think he's hilariously hypocritical. Well, anyways, we won't suck you into that conversation.
She's like, I can't go there this morning.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and just know that never comes up in my world.
I'm sure it doesn't. Right. So, but I will say this, though. We do have a lot coming up in your world in regards to mask wearing.
Yes.
And the governor coming. I don't know about you, but I had over 50 text messages hit my phone. And I looked at my phone and it said, you have 53 messages. I'm like,
what happened?
What? I mean, and this happened in and my phone was just bam, bam, bam,
Yep.
bam. And I'm in the middle of tribunals working with a family, and my phone won't stop vibrating. And I'm like, sorry about this.
What
and I
is
open it
going
up,
on?
and every one of them have posted into my text the Fox News story on the governor, getting rid of masks. What's the thought in Austin on that? What's the push for that? I'm not saying it's a bad thing. How are businesses reacting down there? Was there conversation held with a bunch of organizations that said, hey, Governor, we're ready to let the masks come off and let's go back to business?
Yes. I mean, I think this is, it was really appropriate for Texas Independence Day, right? Yesterday.
I was like, how perfect is that?
Absolutely. And, I was joking around with my staff. I got to lead the Senate in prayer yesterday when that's a tradition on the Senate floor is that someone opens session in prayer. And so we've been taking turns with the senators. Yesterday was my turn. And I was like, okay, it's Texas Independence Day. I prayed and the masks went away. I don't know if it's all related or anything, And then in full disclosure, I have to say that the masks had been announced, the mask mandate release had been announced before I prayed, but God knew my heart, right? So, but yeah, I mean, and as you might guess, actually, I'm going to step away. I'm going to reach over here and pick up something. I'll show you something. Every morning when I get to my office, there is a packet, and I don't know if you can see how thick this is.
Yes.
This is just a stack of front to back news clipping service. And so, somebody has the job of just kind of looking through statewide headlines, national headlines, and even international headlines to just kind of pick up the vibe around the world and around the state about this, that, and the other things that might be impacting us at the state level. And the Austin American-Statesman clipping is the very front. So this is from this morning. The first thing, Governor Greg Abbott in statewide mask mandate moves to, quote, open Texas 100%, actions at odds with health experts and federal officials. So, that's one direction that we're going to see, right? We're going to see people that are like, it's too soon. This is going to send us back the other direction and that sort of thing. On the flip side, I think, John, are the people are rejoicing, right? And so I think people have been asking for this for quite some time. Another piece of the kind of the health side of things is it was announced, I think, yesterday in a number of venues that it's estimated that we have about 10 million Texans, which is roughly half the state adult population, which is what kind of matters on this, right? Because young kids are not dramatically affected by COVID, but roughly half of the adult population of Texas have actually recovered from COVID. And then when you add on top of that, those who are doing the vaccine, and again, I support people's choice to do the vaccine. I do not support it being mandatory in any way.
Amen.
But,
yep.
All of those things, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is the 1-dose vaccine, also was just announced. That'll be rolling out shortly. We're about to get to, in the next week or two, the 1C group, which is 50 and over. So, one of the things I was talking with some of my colleagues about yesterday was, at the beginning of this, and y'all, I'm sure remember this, the idea was that you need to either wear a mask or be socially distanced, right? A mask was actually kind of the fallback if you couldn't maintain social distancing,
yes.
Right. But no one talks about that anymore. And now we're talking about people that have actually recovered from it, have built up some immunity, it would appear, et cetera. So I think it is absolutely time, absolutely probably past time, but I think we're ready to keep moving forward, and people in my world have been pretty happy.
Well, and what Kathy drove home this morning, and of course I'm right in line, is that we have the choice now.
Right.
We get to choose. And so that's what we consider to be most important. I hope I think we froze.
Oh, she might have frozen. Oh, hopefully maybe we're unfrozen. Well, and again, I think that, and so people are saying, well, I still want to wear a mask. You can. And I think there will be people who wear masks from now on because they just feel more comfortable with that. Hopefully she'll get a chance to reconnect with us. But what I hear the senator saying is this is something that has been overdue. Again, it doesn't, if you're a business owner, school districts, the different school districts will get to make their decisions.
Hey, John.
There
you are again. Yay.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. So I just said people in my world are pretty happy. And then I saw, John, you go.
I'm sorry that was your frozen screen of me. I apologize. That probably wasn't my best
please tell me you took a screenshot of that.
That's funny. What I was saying is that Kathy and I have been talking this morning about the fact that it's not so much, okay, wear a mask, don't wear a mask. We have the choice now.
Exactly.
We get to choose. Right. And I think,
And I think you probably saw this in the announcement. I mean, the new executive order, it rescinds certain things, but it does give people the choice. And so businesses do have the choice of requiring a mask when you come in. And I think that this is something that I'm sure there are still going to be people that do have a problem with that. To me, that's a whole different world, though, than the government mandating it, right?
Yes.
So I think, what an individual person determines is best for them. What an individual business determines is best for their employees, their customers, whatever. They just want to be open, right? And so I think, and if I'm offended to go into a business that requires a mask, then I don't have to go.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that's our feeling as well. And I think that's been everybody's feeling the whole time, right? And because I've always said it, I choose not to go into Home Depot during the depths of this with my dad. We go to Harbor Freight instead because Harbor Freight doesn't have as many people in it. They're more socially distanced, where at Home Depot it's too busy, too many people, and my dad doesn't need to be in that influence, right? So I make the choice.
Right.
But I had the choice. And to take the choice away, I have a real problem with, and I think most Texans have a real problem with.
We've had businesses destroyed.
And at the end of the
from it.
day, John, Kathy, I mean, each of us are the only ones that really know, what our personal situation is, what the situation with the people that are in our immediate circles of physical contact, right? I mean, this is freedom. Freedom is not risk-free. I mean, First of all, let's just go in and say that that's what it means. To be free means that you're choosing your level of risk. And I think one of the places, this is one of the reasons we have laws. It's one thing for you to be able to choose your own risk. When you're putting other people at risk, that's why we have rules about things, right? Because when my choices are impacting other people's results, then I'm impacting other people's freedom. And so, good government is really all about kind of trying to manage that in a way that allows people the most choice, but also doesn't allow people to hurt other people with their choices, right? And so I think we're in a much better place now. I'm excited about it. I think very literally everyone is taking a big, deep breath and breathing a little more free today.
Yep,
well,
I agree.
you saw, there's on social media, there were people who literally, you could just tell they've been so emotionally wrought. They were almost in tears saying, my family business is back, or I now have the ability to make a living and take care of my family. And we've talked about this with you a little bit, Senator Paxton, and JP and I talk about it all the time. When you take away people's freedoms and choice to do what they feel is best for their family or themselves, we're talking about, we've got a mental health crisis in this country like nobody's business. And so at some point you have to start weighing out the physical being together, risk. Like you said, there's always risk involved with all freedom. I mean, we could walk out and a bomb could be dropped on us here, at Venture X. Not that it will, but, that could happen. But at some point, when is the mental health component of this just as important?
Yeah, these things don't happen in a vacuum, do they? And
no.
I signed on to a bill that was authored by, I guess I'm joint authoring this bill because it's about to be filed with Senator Lois Kolkhorst, that requires, and this of course was well in the works before the mask mandate change, but what's been happening in our nursing homes, right?
Yes.
With people who are isolated and, and I'm just speaking for me, but I personally would rather die of COVID than loneliness. And
oh my gosh,
I think that, one of the things that has been really heartbreaking is families that have a family member in a residential nursing home or whatever. And this bill requires that every resident of such a facility has at least one that they are entitled to at least one designated caregiver. And there can be protocols around that, but they have to be able to have a visitor. I'm actually looking at potentially filing a kind of not a companion, but something along the same lines, that minor children, both parents need to be able to go to the hospital or to
Yes.
the
Yes.
ER
Yep.
and go in, not just one.
Right.
And I think really any patient in a hospital, and John, you know, when you've got family members that have health risks, if they've been hospitalized a lot, you probably, like me, I mean, both my parents were in the hospital, in and out a lot for different things. That's one of the things they taught me was somebody stays with them, because a
Right.
person in the hospital is generally, I mean, by virtue of the fact that they're in the hospital, they're not in a good position to advocate for themselves. They are not able to necessarily perceive all of the things, take it all in. A lot of times they're in a tremendous amount of pain that, I mean, they can't advocate for themselves. You need to have someone there to help. And I saw times, my mom was diabetic. I saw one time she was hooked up to glucose. Well, she wouldn't have known that, and it would have killed her.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's something common, but people need to have emotional support and advocacy support when they're in hard times like that. So anyway, I'm glad the masks are off.
So let me ask you a question. Let's change the channel for a moment and talk ERCOT real quick. You sat on the committee. I was able to watch some of it, not all of it. I know that a lot of it coming out was alarming to me, especially when the question asked, well, did you tell the governor that this is coming and we probably should get ready? Well, you know, no, we didn't. And it's like, really, dude? I mean, and from a perspective of watching it, it seemed like the ERCOT people were very laissez-faire. And I was like, you need to step up, sit up straight, and be responsive in a way that sounds responsible. So from my perspective, it was like how incredibly disrespectful to all these families that have struggled, the way that you're answering these questions.
Or have lost someone. Jerry, my mom's boyfriend of 33 years, her best friend, her companion, that literally they've spent the past 33 years in love with each other. We lost him because ERCOT was asleep at the wheel, because he went into early signs before we could get him over to my brother's. When my brother finally had heat, we lost him due to heart failure because of the early signs of hypothermia. So don't take a,
we didn't tell
attitude.
Yeah, we were told
We
in November.
lost one of our most beloved family members because of their mistakes.
Well, Kathy, first of all, I am so, my heart goes out to you and all of those who were close to him, and that's just wrong.
Thank you.
And, you know, I think we did see, part of what we saw come out in the hearing was there was kind of this, we got this approach, and we didn't. I say we, I mean, ERCOT did not. And one of the big issues that really stood out to me, and I kept coming back to in the hearing, and John, I'm surprised you didn't watch all 25 hours of the hearing. What's that?
I tried, Senator.
But,
I tried.
You know, I kept talking and asking questions about communication. And one of the things I asked of the Railroad Commission, of the PUC, and of ERCOT was that they would provide. Oh, yeah. But I asked if they would, I think they need to provide us with forensic timelines of inbound and outbound communication, because that's part of what we need to really analyze to see where things fell apart. We're going to go back into BNC, Business and Commerce, on Thursday of this week, and we're going to be talking about the financial impact, the cost of this in the industry within, but also with consumers. And actually, I'll text you something that you can post. But for people who are concerned about their bills, the Office of the Attorney General did put out some advisory material. And the first thing that they suggested was you might want to think about taking your bill off of auto pay if you do have that. And then also, as you know, the OAG
that's a good point.
Addresses consumer fraud, deceptive trade practices, all kinds of things like that.
Yep.
Price gouging, all of these sorts of things. So I'm going to send you a document that you can post for your viewers and listeners.
We really appreciate that. Yeah.
Because I mean, there's still a lot of questions. There's an apartment complex in Plano with 86 units that still has no water.
Yeah.
And they're on 16 days of no water. And the city of Plano has told them, well, until we can get out to inspect to make sure that the pipes are all back in working order, you're just going to have to live the way you're living. And it's porta potties and they've got 3 lines hooked into a fire hydrant for 86 units. And these are for people with babies. And in fact, I was talking to her on the way in because she needed my advice. What do we do? We're thinking of doing a group rent holdout and not pay our rent because we're not getting service. And I said, don't do that because they'll evict you.
Yeah.
I say, and they don't have to repair it under state law if your rent's not paid. So you need to pay your rent, serve them the letter on the liability of the landlord to repair, demand that they do it within 5 days, let them respond. And, you're going to have to follow that process.
I mean, in the meantime, these are basic necessities not being met.
Right, and they can end up in the JP court to get an order to repair to the landlord, right? And so ERCOT, this has really caused a significant issue across the state. I think we froze again. We're good on this end, internet.
Oh well, shoot. Well, and she has some great points, and we're glad that I mean, we're fortunate that that she's our senator and she is fighting for us here, and asking the hard questions. We got her back. Oh, good.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a catch-22, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So so I'm glad that you are digging into this.
Yeah,
and,
thank you for that.
You need to let people know that we've got people in Plano that are suffering.
Yeah.
Still today, because of your lack of responsibility and taking the threat seriously in November and giving the governor an opportunity to put something in play to make sure we don't have this kind of thing. I mean, that just blows me away. So that's my soapbox. But thank you, Senator. For sure. Well, we have just a few more minutes left. Did you want to leave us with anything? I know you always like to give us an update on things that we may not be aware of. What do we need to know, Senator?
Well, like we've seen over and over again over the last couple of years, one of the things we've seen over and over again is...
You're with us still, Senator. We've got you. I wonder if she's having an internet.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There we go.
I think one of the things we've seen with each apocalyptic event that we... Yeah.
Can you repeat that? We missed that last sentence of what you said.
Apocalyptic event. Yeah. I think we're having bad internet connection. ERCOT must be listening to us.
Yeah, I was going to say ERCOT doesn't want her to talk to us today.
Hey, I've lost the audio again. I don't know if you can hear me.
Now we can hear you. We can hear you.
Oops, there's my thumb. We can hear you. Can you hear us, Senator? She can't hear us.
Well, and again, we appreciate her time so much. She may be reconnecting with us. And if you've got questions, there we go. There we go.
People who are in the cost and billing fallout of this, make sure that we post the information so that they can know the avenues that they can take if they're having issues or if they have questions. Secondly, everything that you do proactively to address a problem you have not only helps you, it helps other people who are having the same problem and don't really know where to go, right? Because there's a cascading effect when there gets some momentum about correcting these things. So I encourage everyone to do that. And that's part of being responsible for yourself. But when you actually help a lot of other people.
That's so true.
Anyway, I appreciate you guys and all that you do to help people stay up with what's going on in the world. But I also appreciate the opportunity just to work with great people like you guys. And I appreciate y'all letting me have an opportunity to reach other people in a different way so that it helps me do my job, it helps me serve. So thank you guys.
We appreciate you.
And happy Texas Independence Day week.
Independence
yes.
Week. Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Senator, for all
Thanks,
you
Senator.
do. And,
God bless you.
For letting us know up here what's going on down in Austin. We thank you.
Thank you. Y'all too. God
See
bless
you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Yeah,
so,
and she's so right, and that's one of the things that with her coming on, we'll be having Congressman Taylor coming back on again soon. With having Dr. Good on, they are all telling you what to do if you have a problem. And so you're right. If you've got, you have access to this show, share the information that we get out there, because you might be saving your neighbor's life. You might be saving a family member's life. You don't know who you might be helping that desperately needs help, but doesn't even know how to ask for help. So, get out there, share the word. We're going to get the information that Senator Paxton's going to text to JP. We're going to get that out on our social media, and we encourage you to put that out there because people don't know what to do. People are getting hit with these bills that are astronomical. Yeah, you're right. I think the first thing you do is, if you're on auto pay and that's coming up here on the 15th or whatever, take yourself off auto pay. So that way you have a time to debate the bill when it comes to you. I think that's huge right there.
I do too. All right. There we go. We're out.
And Susan Schuler, hello. That reminds me, we will have Miss Texas, Chandler Foreman, on the show Friday.
There you go.
Stay tuned.
Party, rock and roll, and whatnot. We're out.